Case in Point, a conversation between two lifelong friends and casual watch obsessives. We will talk about timepieces, family, music, design, travel, and whatever else we pretend to know about. I'm Mark, and I'll be joined by Aaron. We'll be adding two more voices to an already crowded corner of the internet. We're not experts, we're not sponsored. Honestly, we barely remembered to hit record. But we're here and we're holding time well. For this, our first episode, we're keeping it simple. We'll share a bit of our backstory, who we are, how we met, and how this interest in watches started. Somewhere along the way, these little machines became a bigger part of our lives than we expected. Aaron, my co-host and one of my best friends, is also an incredibly talented woodworker. In this episode, we'll talk about a watch box he recently built for his daughter. It sparked a larger conversation between us about how we both started involving our kids in this hobby. The first watches we ever bought back in the late 80s or early 90s, when had no idea what we were even doing, um, have been passed down to our kids. And there's something really cool about that. These little objects carry our stories and now they're part of theirs. Thanks for listening. Hey,
Hey, man,
we're doing it.
this is it. It's really happening.
After a lot of prodding from my kid and your wife, we're actually doing it.
Well, it takes the best of those around us, I guess, to get us going.
Yeah. All right. So, how should we start?
I don't know. Do you want to launch in with a little bit of that intro script that you had, or just introduce yourself?
Oh, I haven't looked at that. It's been a while since I looked at that. But yeah, we can give a little bit of background. I actually don't specifically remember when we met, honestly. I know that it was probably Brian's party, and I don't remember which party, but back in those days, there's lots of little parties with little kids running around, and I know that our kids went to the same co-op, and
Yeah.
that's more than likely where we met. Um, and then if yeah, what do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, my first memory of meeting you, which I don't know if it's accurate, would have been what I think was a 4th of July party at Brian's, um, out on the deck. Kids were little,
Yep.
maybe, maybe Anya was 2.5, something like that. So
Yeah. Wow.
pretty little.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's my first memory.
Yeah. And then of course, were you working at the chair shop?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So then not long after that, you all hired me to do some branding and marketing and design work, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh
You came in and did all the photography, as I remember it, of chairs. Um, and that started, I think, with postcards and that sort of stuff, and then grew into working on the website. So yeah, that's really where I got introduced to your creative powers and all of the work that you do so well.
yeah. Wow. And then so now you're at yeah, so now you're at Bree College, still involved with woodwork, but it's way more than that. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
So yeah, I work at a school called Berea College. We have a craft program. It's a 130-ish year old program. I'm a woodworker, as Mark says, by background. But we have weaving, woodworking, broom making, ceramics. We teach about craft in area schools. And we have about 100 students, 110 students who we serve in the program.
Yep. And then I'm still doing marketing and branding. I'm still doing the same stuff, plugging along. So yeah, I started a Crosshatch, which is my independent design studio, and yeah, and I'm still doing some work in Berea. So
Amazing. And
yeah,
you're still doing work for us. So if anyone here listening goes and checks out Berea College Student Craft, you'll see our logo, which was drawn by Mark. He'll land in our website, which was all created by Mark and his team at Crosshatch. And when you look at our social media, you'll see a look and a style that really came from the direction that Mark gave us, I guess 6 or 7 years ago at this point. So
Wow.
Um,
That's just crazy that we've just been sort of intertwined all this time around. Um, and then at some point, and again, I don't remember this either. There's something going on with my memory, but I don't remember at what point we sort of got into the watch thing.
yeah. Well, yeah, we can talk about, I'll talk about that in a second. But one thing I want to mention to folks that they might not realize, we're talking about meeting when our kids were little. And what we haven't made clear is um, my daughter's about to graduate from college in a couple of weeks. Mark's daughter's already graduated from college. This wasn't 5 years ago when our kids were little. This was
No.
25 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
or close to it. So it has been a long, long time. Yeah, with watches, I feel like I always remember you being into watches, and I wasn't so much. I was wearing a watch, I'm sure that we'll talk about later when we met, because I was a one watch person, and I wore that watch um, for I guess decades. Um, but I remember you having a Hamilton and wearing that and loving it. I believe you had a Swiss Army watch. Is that
Yep.
right? That
Yeah.
you wore? And so I remember you sort of treasuring those and them being a special part of something that you carried with you. So when I
Yeah.
wanted to get involved with watches again, mechanical watches, you were my first call, or text, as is the case these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I was probably a one watch person for a long time too, but that was probably because, finances were different when the kids were little.
That's right.
And so yeah, I got that first Hamilton in the early 90s. And then that Swiss Army one probably would have been in the late 90s as the aesthetic for larger watches became like the thing, but they're not that different. I mean, they're just both pretty basic field watches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can remember, I had worn a watch again that we'll talk about in a little bit. Not to keep teasing, but got to keep people interested here.
Hmm.
Um, and I stopped wearing it because the work I was doing for a while became just challenging with wearing a watch. I was doing some pretty physical work for quite a while. And so I set that watch aside. And then when I started wearing a watch again, I started wearing my wife's old Apple Watch. And I loved having a watch on my wrist again, but I didn't like the connected function of it and how distracted I often was by emails coming in, by notifications popping up. And I realized I could control all of that, but I just didn't really like that. And I remember, you know, and this probably is an experience that other people have had, laying in bed, not able to sleep, scrolling through watches on my phone.
Never happened.
And I think the watch that piqued my interest, although I'm not 100% sure about this, was a Bulova hack watch. So again, the Bulova field watch,
Yeah.
real clean field watch aesthetic. And I remember sending that to you and being like, "Hey, what do you think of this? Is this a watch?" Typing away that I was wanting to start wearing a watch again.
Yeah.
And you responded right away like, "That's super cool. Look at the Hamiltons."
Yeah.
And I'm guessing, I can't exactly remember, but I'm guessing before I fell asleep that night, I had ordered a Hamilton khaki field
Yeah.
um, that arrived probably a week or so later.
What a great watch. I mean, that's always and if you read and watch and stuff on YouTube and Instagram and blogs, I mean, that is always the watch that people recommend. Like, that's a great entry point. Even if like you move beyond that, it's such a great entry point because it gets you fiddling with the winding part and you sort of the manual then segues to the automatic. And what does that do? And all of it is, it's not a battery, that's kind of like the
Yeah.
switch. Yeah. What a great watch.
Yeah. And what a great company. I can remember, you should always do your research before you buy something, but
Is
I
that
guess
right?
I'm probably not alone in that I do a lot of research after I've clicked the buy button.
Yeah.
And I can remember in the weeks that followed discovering watch podcasts, looking for anything that was where anyone was talking about Hamilton
Yep.
and gaining a little bit of understanding about the company and its history and the design of that watch and where it came from. And that really opened up what probably is, I spend a lot more time reading about watches than I do looking at my watch and checking the time. I mean, there's a lot more to this than just
That's
the piece on your wrist.
Ooh,
And you
way to
certainly got me
define this
started.
sickness. Yeah. Oh man. Way to define the sickness for us. I think that so when I um we'll get into the kid watches here in a minute, but I'm wearing a Hamilton khaki field mechanical too. But I want to say to your point, I think I watched what's his name? Shoot, Adrian Barker's video on this watch probably 10 times. I know I have. When you see how many people have viewed that video, 10 of those at least are me. So, uh, yeah, I sort of feel like there's a little bit of revealing aspect to these conversations that maybe is not so great.
Or maybe it's really great. I mean, I think that is the thing is that um, you can get a ton of enjoyment out of this hobby without buying anything,
For
or
sure.
or you can buy a few things that are relatively simple or that are, relatively expensive. But so much of the joy comes from poring over the reading that you can do, watching the videos that you can now watch on YouTube, listening to the podcasts that are available. Um, and it's a nice break from everything that's going on in the world, everything that's around us, to break from work, to break from all sorts of stresses. Um,
That's
and it
exactly right.
really, it's just unlimited, I think, what you can learn.
Yep. Such a great point. So I noticed, so you're at the, are you at, did you finish the box that you were making for Anya?
So, yeah, I'm working on a watch box right now. It's pretty much done. Although I've decided just yesterday that I'm gonna recover the cushions because I don't
Of
like
course.
the color that I was able to get. And this is a watch box for my daughter that I will give her for her college graduation, which happens in just a couple of weeks. Um, and
And it's stunning. It
well,
is
thank you,
absolutely
thank you.
gorgeous. It's stunning. It's incredible. She's gonna love it. I
Well, I hope
noticed that
she does, and
there's,
I think she will.
so I noticed there's 6 slots. Does she have 6 watches or does she want 6 watches?
Well, the answer to both of those, the answer to one of those is definitely no. She does not have six watches. She may not even want six watches. Um, Although I would say that I think she probably just doesn't know yet that she wants six watches.
Oh, that yeah, that's more
Um,
likely the case.
so in the watch box, when I give it to her, there'll be a new watch in there, one of my watches again, that she expressed a really strong attachment to. She's borrowed it quite a few times. Um,
Amazing.
and I only discovered that she really had such a connection to this watch because I told her I was going to sell it. Um,
Mm.
Trying to raise some money for another watch. And the look on her face when I told her I was going to sell it was one of extreme disappointment. So I realized, well, shucks, I can't do that. I'm going to have to hold on to that one. And so that watch will go to her in this watch box as her college graduation present.
Oh, that's amazing. Just incredible. So, do you want to talk about which watch that is?
So, so yeah, so that watch is a Seiko Alpinist. It's I mean, they have so many Seiko Alpinists.
Yeah,
This is the somewhat limited, although I think it was limited to 1,959
right.
pieces. So I'm not sure how.
As a Seiko's way, right?
Yeah, but this is a limited recreation, I think they called it, of the 1959 Seiko Alpinist.
Yeah.
It's the most true to the original, I think, that they have on the market now. And it's an amazing watch. I love it. Um, it's super legible. It's got the 6L35 movement in there, which is amazingly accurate and has been accurate since the day that I got it. I bought it used. It's in quite good condition, although it's got some marks on it.
Yeah,
Um,
which she will love.
she will.
Yeah, those marks came from you. That's the one with like that's the strap that I love, right? That has like the cross stitching or something.
It does, yeah. So it comes on a button strap
Yeah, I love that
with the
strap.
cross stitching. I've never worn it on that button strap. So I've got it on sort of a distressed suede strap, which is how
Yeah,
she's always worn it,
yeah,
and how I'll give it to her. Although I'll include the button strap and
yeah.
the other piece.
Well, so speaking of which, should we talk a little bit about getting our kids interested and involved in watches?
I think we should. I think we should. And why don't you kick us off there?
Yeah, so the that Hamilton. that I ordered from L Bean. I want to say I got it in 91, and I did find that article that I was referencing about the confusing fall warblers. I guess this guy wrote that there's so many different kinds of warblers, and then he compares that to all the different types of Hamiltons that they made in that time from the 80s, I guess, into the 90s. The 92, what are they? The 92 19s. So yeah, I got that from L Bean, and I was just struck. I remember, poring over those catalogs all the time. And then there was just something about that simple design, that layout, and then the 24-hour numbers on the inner circle. I mean, I just loved that watch so much. And so it was one of those things the catalog version of pouring over the internet at night when you can't go to sleep. Like in 1991, that was the equivalent for me. And then I probably wore that watch. I mean, it was over, 10, 12, 15 years. I don't know. And before I got that Swiss Army one. Um, But when Felix was sort of starting to get really interested in watches because you and I were having all these conversations about watches and he loves all the same stuff. He loves old Toyota trucks and he's it, he's grown into a mini me in all the ways for sure, from music to and so when he was talking about watches and of course wanting a watch, I thought, well, duh, because that I want to say that was like 33 or 34 millimeters. Like it's, really small in these days, but perfect for his size wrist. And so I think I I think I swapped out the movement, and then there's a bit of like loose loom inside, just floating around on top of the dial. So I got that. I didn't have them change anything, but I just had them clean it up, put in the new movement, and I gave that to him for one of his birthdays. So yeah, and then of course that was the first, I guess, for all three of us, the Hamilton was the first bug, but he's definitely has moved on. And he has watches now, several watches, and he's still in high school. So, yeah, but he has the bug and he loves it. And of course, he loves, we have this is a little bit telling and maybe something I shouldn't say, but we have a thread with the three of us where we're like, do our wrist check of the day. And he just loves being a part of that. And so I guess one thing I should mention is that he lives in Berea as well. So he lives in the same college town that you live in, that I used to live in. So yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Felix is such an important part of our group and that sort of back and forth banter.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And a
you
huge
you
proponent of us doing this.
that's true. That's true.
He's
And
executive
and
producer.
and a kid with just a great eye and a great, a lot of great thoughts about design and how things could look, should look. Um, and it's always fun to hear his opinions in that watch chat as we share ideas and thoughts back and forth.
Yeah. It was so
Um,
cool. He sent me that picture of you that, I guess it was just yesterday or the day before that you changed out a bracelet for him from his Seiko, which is just so awesome. I love that he has that connection with you as well.
yeah, it's a blast. It's about we sat right here. I'm sitting at my desk at work, and he stopped by work here on his way home from school, and we sat and put that bracelet, sized it up, and put it on for him,
Amazing.
which was yeah a ton of good fun. Yeah, and then the watch that really got me started, I guess, as a watch owner, although like I mentioned before, there was a break, was a Tag Heuer Formula One from 1988, 1989, I think is probably when I got that.
Yeah.
Um, and now with the reissue, there's a lot of thought and writing about that watch. But yeah, in the late 80s, early 90s, that watch was sort of everywhere. And when I got it in 1989, I probably wore that almost every day for 20 years.
Wow.
Um, and, I spent a ton of time in the water with that watch. It did flood out once. So I'm not even 100% sure if it has the original movement in it. I had took it somewhere to get it all taken care of after that happened. I broke the crystal out once doing some stonework. Um, it's got a big dent in the crown. but it still works great. I sent it off to Right Time Watches out where you are, Mark, in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
And they replaced the seals and got it sort of tuned up for me. And then I passed it on to my daughter a few years ago, and she wears it, almost every day. And she's not in our watch group. She's not ready to make
Yeah,
that
no, it's
commitment to
yeah,
joining the
well, it's a
daily
bit
wrist check.
ridiculous. She's a little bit smarter than us, is what that means.
But she every week or two she'll send a wrist check from somewhere she's at that's interesting with that watch or another watch that she currently has. So
I love
definitely,
that. That word, it's funny because the word robust is always used. And of course, that watch is probably not that robust, but with your background in woodworking and all the work that you were doing, and of course, you were a swimmer and all that stuff, that's the watch you wore. Like you just beat the hell out of it.
yeah, it is. It's amazing, and the bezel is really pretty much unreadable. There's certainly no paint left. It's got
Yeah.
some pretty deep scratches and grooves and marks in it. It's funny. I think I treated that watch just exactly the right way, although I certainly wasn't thinking about it at the time, which maybe that's the key.
Yeah.
Um, I treasured it. I loved it. I liked seeing it on my wrist. I liked always having it with me, but I didn't think twice about taking it off or like it just was on there and it
Yeah.
was part of, I wore it in the shower. I wore it. It probably went months and months before it ever was even removed for an hour or two.
Wow. That's just nuts. Which color did you have?
So I had the full lume dial. That's what Anya has now. The lume is
Yeah.
still there a little bit. Doesn't
Yeah.
last all that long, but it's the full lume sort of yellow dial, the steel case, not the plastic case, with the Jubilee bracelet.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's a great watch, and I love that it's still getting worn. It's probably on her wrist right now, if I had to guess.
Yeah. I had a friend in high school, which would have been, so I got the Hammy in 91 or 92, I guess. But I guess in the 80s, I remember a friend in high school who had watches, and I was, my piqued my interest into watches. But he had a Gruen that was very similar looking to that plastic one. In fact, when you showed me your the the Tag Heuer, which was not on my radar at that time, uh that's what it reminded me of. It was like, oh, that looks like that Gruen watch. And I don't remember plastic, watches with some plastic or, those. Oh, it was almost like a little bit of swatchness to like the straps and stuff like that, at least on the Gruen, if I remember correctly. But I had totally forgotten about that watch until you showed me that Formula One. And of course, now they're everywhere. Because, as you know, this last, I guess with these conversations, I just don't think that you and I are going to be like on top of like the latest industry things, but we pay attention. But like, I would love to know your thoughts on the new Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. I think, it's bigger than the original was. Um, the original was quartz. Now these new ones are the solar quartz movement, which makes perfect sense and is
Yep.
I think probably an amazing upgrade. Um, but there is so much nostalgia. I mean, I do think, I was in college in the late 1980s, and in certain pockets of the world, that watch seemed to be sort of everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, I worked at a country club throughout my time in college.
Yeah.
And for a country club kid, that was the watch to have,
Yeah.
I think. And that wasn't really my background, but I felt pretty proud to be joining the gang, at least with that
Yeah.
strapped on my wrist at that point, at
I
19,
mean,
20
that's what
years
a
old.
watch does, isn't it? Like a
And
watch can make you feel a certain way just by throwing it on. And I
yeah, yeah, for sure.
that's certainly what drew me to the Hamilton.
Yeah,
I guess in those days I was definitely more in the Swatch circles,
yeah.
which was, those were pretty cool too.
They were very cool. And I had a Swatch before I got that tag, actually. That the Swatch was actually a gift from one of the kids who I coached in swimming at the country club. And so that was real precious. It was the Memphis version, sort of Memphis design Swatch. I wish I still had it. I have no idea what happened to it. Maybe
Yeah.
it's in a box at my parents' house somewhere.
Oh, that'd be so
But
cool if that
it
turned
would
up.
be neat. Yeah. It was, sort of purple and yellow and orange, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, And again, that was a watch that I just wore all the time. I loved having that on my wrist. But I do remember getting that all stainless steel Tag Heuer felt like,
Yeah.
and at that time I didn't know anything about watches, and it
Yeah.
felt to me like, you know, the equivalent of having a Patek on my wrist. Like I didn't know,
Right.
like this is a real watch
A real watch. Yep.
forever, and it is
Yep.
that.
Yep. Well, I mean, Anya's got it now, so that's awesome.
Yep.
Olivia, so it's not just Felix, but my oldest daughter has a Swatch, and she has a pretty physical, she has a pretty physical job where she does merchandising, and so she's moving furniture around or unloading trucks as they come in, and she wears a Swatch every day. So yeah, my middle daughter is still an Apple Watch person, but she's definitely her interest is peaked just because of all this hubbub with Felix and now Olivia having a watch. So I think she wants a watch too, a weekend
Yeah.
watch maybe.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, all right. Anything else we need to cover in this our first conversation?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to get started. Hopefully, folks, you'll find this of some value or some interest to listen to, and we will keep plugging away with. Sometimes I'm sure we'll have some weeks with topics, some weeks with no topics, and we'll see where we go together.
Yeah. Anything else? We
I
good?
don't think so. Yep.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right. See ya.
Bye. For photos and links from today's episode, check out the show notes at casingpointpodcast.com.